My name's Sarah Nicole Rowe, and I am a writer, creator, dancer, dance teacher. If it's the arts, I want to be there. So I started a mental health organization in 2018, but it didn't really come into fruition until fall 2019, and our first event was January 2020. So it's called the Sunflower Showcase, and the whole point was we wanted to create a space where creatives and their viewers can have an honest conversation about mental health. I found that, for example, a performer would be on stage and talk about how when they wrote this song, they were like bawling their eyes out in their room. But like crying on stage is like unprofessional. But like, why is it not okay to feel what you were feeling when you made it and to like be authentic with your audience? So we wanted to create a space where the creatives can showcase their work in the way they want it to be showcased, and the audience can feel that, and then we can facilitate an honest conversation within our community. So it started because I wrote and directed a mental health short film for my thesis, and we sat in the premiere for about a year because I didn't just want to premiere my film and it be done. I wanted it to be a greater thing, a bigger thing. So we funded the Sunflower Showcase. It was amazing. We partnered with a few other organizations. There's an organization in Toronto called Artery, and they host a bunch of small events throughout the GTA. Someone will have a jazz concert in their living room. Someone will have a comedy show on a boat. So we partnered with them. So we had a big premiere where we showcased my film, and we had multiple organizations in Toronto speak and do a panel discussion. And we had mental health practitioners there, so if people were triggered, they could go into a private room and do it that hands-on. And it fostered a very safe environment and a lot of community discussion around mental health and intergenerational trauma, because we had people there that were like 16, people there that were like 60. So it was an amazing atmosphere. And then through our partnership with Artery, we had a Sunflower tour. And so we partnered with another guy named Jay, who's amazing, and he had another mental health short film, so we had a double screening with him. And then we had a mental health woman empowerment event with this woman named Jessica Taylor Reagan, who's amazing as well. And we showcased my film and had a woman empowerment seminar around that. And so the goal was to have like concerts and mental health-based artists, or like an art class and an art show, gallery, like anything involving the arts and mental health. But COVID hit and we had to kind of bring that to a stop. So mental health illnesses, I have anxiety and I have depression. And growing up, my parents didn't get it. Coming from a Black Caribbean family, you don't talk about that kind of stuff. And I was very much labeled as like the overdramatic daughter. Family dynamics are really weird to navigate, so it was what it was. And I didn't feel like I ever had a safe space to talk about it. And as I grew up and started really looking inside myself and like realizing that the feelings I was feeling weren't passing and were becoming very intense and were growing, and it was harder and harder for me to pull myself out of that dark space, I found that talking about it with other creatives and falling into conversation with someone and being like, well, why'd you write your short film? Oh, because of this. And then suddenly we're having a dialogue around mental health, and like I feel better. And I was like, that's it. And it's one thing to go to a seminar and have someone talk at you about it or learn about it, and that's a very important and crucial step, but I felt like the one-to-one interaction was like dwindling and lacking, and that was something that like honestly feeds my soul. That's why I love teaching dance. I love teaching kids and empowering kids and like helping them learn a skill and helping them tell their story through movement, or having them be a vessel to tell my story through movement. And that's the same with being on a set and everyone having a collective vision, and by the end of it, everyone's felt something because we all did this thing together, and then the product itself can make you feel even more. And just that one-to-one interaction, I felt it was missing, and it's something that I longed for. And so I very much believe you should be the person you want to be in the world. You should do the things you feel are lacking in the world. And so I kind of put two and two together and found a group of people that had a similar vision to mine. And what started off as just being a one-off premiere turned into something bigger, because you realize that artistry is more than just a film. Artistry is music, dance, like actual art, painting, galleries, slam poetry. And so I just really wanted to facilitate that space. And also as a Black woman, facilitate that space for the Black community, because I find that a lot of the times, if it's like a Black mental health event, only Black people will be there, and like that's not the point. And if it's a mental health event, it's a very mixed bag, but there's not that much Black representation. So I wanted to create a space where it can be a vessel for the Black community, but it can also be a place for everybody to go. So that was really important to me. It's kind of a mixed bag. Quarantine has really done a number on me, having to be in solitude and just like think on it and not really having a schedule to fall back on. And I recently had a very bad anxiety attack. It was like a 4-hour long episode. And if I was by myself, I honestly don't know if I would have been okay. And that was really scary. And I realized that in helping other people, and making sure other people's voices were heard, I used that as a crutch and didn't really acknowledge my own pain because I was helping others, so I was fine. So I feel like having the showcase and the organization and seeing firsthand the importance of talking about it almost gave me the strength to talk about it like myself. As a kid, I realized that I didn't even, like, there's a lot of things that you just kind of shut down and you don't think about. And I used to be in my room and like have anxiety attacks and like cry for hours and not tell anyone. And then I'd go downstairs, like, let's play Barbie Pockets, let's hang out now, like, I'm fine. And I would just go downstairs and act like everything was fine, and I wouldn't tell anyone about it or talk about it. And I think I internalized a lot of that, which is another big reason why my biggest thing, make sure that other people's voices are heard and that they can talk about it. So I think it's kind of a mix of both. I think it's helped me and it's fostered my need to help others, but it's also helped me help myself. Honestly, I'm in therapy twice a week. Not everyone has access to therapy. I'm very privileged to have access to therapy and be able to afford therapy, I know that. But there are a lot of things that you can do if you don't have access to therapy. And one of the biggest thing I did was just literally look up every coping mechanism and skill I could find, like every single one, whether it's journaling, there's a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 senses, a coping mechanism where you go down the senses and you list 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, etc. There's tensing your muscles in your body, starting from your feet up to your shoulders, and like tensing them and relaxing them to like have your body focus on something else and literally release negative energy. Meditation, sound baths. I literally just did everything. And anytime I ever felt anxious or depressed, I would do one of them. If they worked, I'd be like, cool. If it didn't work, I'd cross it off and I found something else. And I honestly just found my formula. And now I'm at a place where if I feel a certain type of anxiety, or I feel triggered, or I feel like it's hard for me to get out of bed that day, I can pinpoint that and be like, well, the last time you felt like this, you did this coping skill and it worked. So we should try doing that. So it was really just spending a day and just admitting to myself, you're not okay, but you will be and you can be. How are we gonna make that happen? And that was a really tough day, and I asked my sisters for help, and I asked my family for help, and they finally came around and gave me the support that I needed, which was also a big validating factor that helped me a lot. And again, a lot of people don't have that with their family, so I would say try to find a friend that you trust, or someone that you trust, or a mentor, and maybe confide in them. And just having one confidant that you confide in a healthy way, and a list of coping skills that work for you. Sometimes, there was a phase where I drove to the lake by my house. I would bike there every single week to the lake, every single day, and just journaled by the water and watched the sunset. So just like finding little things to do for you that just give you peace and center you, and just having that list handy in your pocket for when you feel overwhelmed. I would say they started as early as like 6 years old. And I didn't know what it was. I just know like I would be playing Sims with my sisters, and then they'd prank me and like unplug the card or whatever, and I'd lose my game and I would lose my mind. And I would like wouldn't be able to breathe, and I'd run upstairs and I'd be bawling for like hours. And I couldn't explain what it was. They just thought I was mad, so I got the mark of being the dramatic sibling. because no one had the language to describe it. And I just kind of took it on myself that I was an overdramatic person, so I never acknowledged it or talked about it. And then I have unfortunately had 2 suicide attempts in my life. I tried once in grade 7 and once at 16. And at 16, I realized that I didn't want to die, and I made myself like throw up all the pills. And again, my mom came home and I was like, hey mom, I had a fun afternoon. Didn't address it, didn't talk about it. And it was the first time I realized that I didn't want to die, but I didn't want to die because I don't want to put my family and friends through it. I don't want my parents to have to deal with losing a kid. I want my friends to have to deal with losing a friend. I don't want my sister to have to deal with losing their siblings. So I was literally only staying alive for everybody else. And I was like, that's a problem. And we should probably address that and deal with that. But again, my parents weren't in a place to receive that. And a lot of the times, in Caribbean culture especially, in Black communities, but also with the older generation in general, they feel you saying that you're not okay is a direct attack on their parenting. Because like, I had a 4-bedroom house and I took dance class lessons and I never had to worry about anything. And my mom grew up with like, my parents grew up really poor and like really had to work for what they had, and they gave us the quote unquote like perfect suburban life. So they were like, what's wrong, you're fine. So again, I was like, I'm just gonna squash this then because I guess I'm fine. And I got to university and my best friend in the entire world, Liz, she changed my life because she was with the first person and she was like, I have anxiety, I think you have anxiety. You need to like validate your feelings. Like, and I would always tell her after I had an anxiety attack, I'd be like, well, I'm just whatever. Or like, my sister's just like, I should give my sisters more grace, or I should be kinder to this person, or this ex-boyfriend was actually right. And she'd be like, no, your feelings are valid. You just feel them way more than a normal person would, or not normal person, but way more than the average person, because you have something, like something's up. And I started looking into that in university. So university was when I first really started to start my mental health journey and seek counseling and seek therapy. And it's really served me, and it's really come full circle. But again, it only helps if you're really honest with yourself. There were things I didn't want to admit and talk about, and it always finds a way to come bite you in the ass later. Hence my episode a month and a half ago. But even that episode, I was already talking to a therapist. I had gotten my family to kind of see what I was going through. So that episode, something that would have been really detrimental 2 years ago, I was able to deal with it and handle it immediately and tell my therapist immediately, and use my coping skills immediately. And again, I know not everyone has access to therapy or the internet to look up coping skills or what may have you, but I positioned myself to be in a space where I could accept and receive that I even had mental health issues, so that when things happened, I could question myself and question them and try to deal with them. And I think that's just the key. But I think 16 was when I was like, something's not right. Give yourself grace. Give yourself grace. Give everyone grace. Give everyone a beat. Literally give everyone a beat. I've learned that nothing anyone does ever has anything to do with you. It's all based on their perspective and their perception of events and their trauma and things that they've gone through. So you can't really take anything personally. And you need to give yourself grace and their reaction grace. And just like, if you're upset, it's okay to be upset. If you're mad, it's okay to be mad. If they're mad, it's valid that they're mad. The thing I hate the most in the world is when you tell someone they hurt your feelings, like, well, you did this. Like, that's not the point. And we can talk about that. We can talk about why my action made me act the way you did, but like, can we acknowledge that like, you hurt me as well? If I'm gonna give you the grace of an apology, then give me the grace as an apology. And I think it's also giving yourself grace. I think it's also giving yourself grace and understanding that there are certain patterns that everyone has, there are certain patterns that feed into my anxiety. And sometimes I'll fall privy to those patterns. Sometimes I won't be able to catch myself before I go into a spiral. But it's not about abolishing it, it's about it happening. 4 out of 10 times and not 9 out of 10 times. And if it happens, we're human and it's fine, but you just have to stop and recoup, give yourself grace, acknowledge it, and try to do better. It's literally just like give yourself grace, give everyone grace, just like take a beat. Literally just take a beat. That's internalizing that was like just take a beat. And it slows everything down.